Tonight is a special Passover episode of Comic Book Business News. Tonight, we are going to discuss Jewish comic books. No Jews were hurt in the making of this episode. This is my comic book, the hardcover edition, fresh off the printing presses, Maccabee Lady Hatikva. Now, my comic book has been around in its current format for about 10 years now. It is the story of Sophia Kelman, who is a nurse, who is a part-time superhero, and she is chosen by God to be the shoftim of the planet Earth and protect the state of Israel. So she is whenever danger is afoot, lightning strikes, and Sophia Kelman turns into Maccabee Lady. Now that book has about 10 or 12 stories in it, and is 125 to 150 pages long. And that book is actually a compilation of earlier tales about the comic book character that were like underground comic books, mostly distributed locally, ranging from a production run of about a couple hundred to like 3,000 for the biggest production run. And most people liked the comic book, so I kept it as a side thing. I did it in college, and the comic book eventually became what I did. And Maccabee Lady, the first one sold a lot and got acclaim, and then had a volume 2, which did very well, and now I have volume 3 coming out. Volume 3 is perhaps, hold on. This is volume 2. Volume 2 is, like Maccabee Lady Zion. It was, I concluded some storyline plots from the first comic book, and like whatever happened to Michael Herod, and whatever happened to some other villains like Akavisha and Jasmine. And whatever happened here. And so that's an example of a Jewish character, my Jewish character. There's some others. There's Shalom, which is a good one from Al Weisner. and don't have an example right before me. And like basically, there's this Mount Sinai where the Exodus was signed, and apparently there's a shins shaped like rock at the top, and lightning strikes it, and Shalom Man appears. Ooh, and when it's almost like I'm thinking, it's almost like the Shalom Man's a nice old comic book. The advantage, I guess, of my superhero is she doesn't need to be made of stone. That would be sort of sad. But Shalom Man is nice, and it's the Golem. It's the Golem sort of thing that runs in Yiddish fiction a lot. The Golem protector that protects the village from the Gentiles that seek to purge it. This was sort of an old country fear where the Jews would fear the purges in countries like Russia or Germany. And Shalom Man sort of is the hero. So that comic book has been around for almost 30 years or now. It's kind of a semi-classic. Al Eisner is a semi-awarded guy with an Inkwell Award, only one award, small award, and Josh Stolman would be like Jewish Guy 3. His comic book, which was IDF Comics, is kind of like almost Captain America, like a more honest. It's like this guy is kind of interesting, but he's only done 4 issues, and he's sort of almost preserving the old Weisner myths a little. Like, I know that catalog will be taken care of, so that it's almost like he's going to be drawing that character after Weisner is gone. And and oh, and Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby never really drew a Jewish per se comic book, but he was one of our huge 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 who was one of our huge legends in the comic book industry, Jewish individual who drew Captain America and invented Captain America and Fantastic Four and many comic books, like inventor of the was one of the Spider-Man's many fathers, creator of the Fourth World, Epic, so many hundreds of characters from Marvel and DC. Jack Kirby, born Jacob Kurtzman, was such a he even has his own museum today. Jack Kirby, famous in this Jack Kirby Lee duo, who created so many characters like Thor. That guy is probably the most prominent Jewish artist. Now, the most prominent Jew probably ever in the industry was Stan Man Lee, who is easily the Marvel's Marvel's head and head of industry for many, many years. And that guy it actually was this rediscovered like a prominence recently, and as a guy who would basically would basically appear in all Marvel's movies. Stan's prominence was he used to write the majority of the Marvel comic books, and as Jack used to illustrate them. Now, the Moses story in comic books, sort of in pertaining to the Exodus, has been done multiple times. I've even done it. Other people have done it. I did a depiction of something alluding to the Exodus in a comic book, non-Maccabee related comic book I did called Zayn. It's been done by numerous people, Kirby and Lee, even the Kuberts, even Harvey P. Carr and Robert Crumb have done the Exodus, or the Bible. It's basically comic books and the comic books version of Jewish studies is a reflection of the whole Jewish experience. Basically, it is a so is Superman really Moses, or is he or is he Jewish visions of how they would like their heroes of the future to be, spectacular versions of their past, and is the fourth world really our fantasies of what we would be if we were really fantasies of our fantasies. And who is God in comic books? God, as classically depicted, is how you would expect Jews to depict God. However, I know my favorite versions of God are by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, or almost the best version of God, the Robert Crumb God. I like to depict God as, although traditional, kind of like what we would like these days. Almost, God knows what we want. So, maybe your Moses will teach our hero martial arts techniques. So, instead of just energy blasts and saying some sort of Star Trek explanation, you would think it was some sort of mind over matter and some sort of belief thing. So that's all for the special Passover edition of Comic Book Business News. Later, my friend.